So welcome to another week on the Property Show. I'm Matt Turner of Astute Property Search, and it's been a great week for me actually. I've got some very happy clients I've managed to get under offer, and I've been doing some research for an American investor who's coming over to England at the end of January. So hopefully I'm going to find some good products for him to come and preview. Today's show, it's a good one. We've got the pleasure of Matteo Bianchi joining me. He's a product and interior designer. He's probably one of the most inspirational property people I know in London. He's designed some amazing residential interiors and commercial interiors, and actually halfway through the show he'll tell you about a spa that he's helped design. I believe it's on the Fulham Road in Chelsea, where you jump yourself into a big container of red wine and give yourself a rather bizarre detox. So keep listening. He's going to be telling you about that later on in the show. Great, so I've taken the train to South London today in a nice little area called Peckham. It's famous in the UK for an old sitcom, Only Fools and Horses, but it's changed a lot in recent times. I have the pleasure of being with Matteo Bianchi. Hi Matteo, how are you?
Hello, how are you? Good, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Matteo is an interior designer, I suppose, or designer. I mean, how would you class yourself?
Interior and product designer at the moment, yeah. I started as an interior designer, but my passion has always been on products as well, or perhaps doing product design whilst you're an interior design is probably your ultimate goal. It's almost like being a chef and open your own restaurant.
Okay.
You're a chef, you got your ingredients, you got your secret dishes, you love absolutely what you do, but one day if your customer will really taste your product, or they can buy and take home your product, it's just kind of the ultimate experience. And now that we design product, is just we feel very fulfilled because it's just going somewhere. So interior product designer.
Okay, so I'm going to go on that analogy and say that if you're a chef, then you must be a Michelin star interior designer, because I've seen some of your projects and they are, they're amazing. I mean, I've seen the before and after, and hopefully we'll talk about a few of them today. So maybe a Michelin 3-star chef.
Well, not sure how many stars. Definitely we cook something completely different, and that's what we like to do. We do. We're not the typical, definitely not the typical Italian restaurant in London. We are a multinational restaurant, and we do offer different plates, different flavors, and different experiences.
No, I must say, it's the first day I've seen you without a bow tie for a long time. As it's on radio, we don't need to know about that. So a little bit about you. What's your background? How did you sort of get into this? Get to where you are today?
I wasn't born as an interior designer at all. My background is quite peculiar because I got a degree in accounting, and then I studied university international relations, and then I did a diploma in marketing in the States, and then I went back to Italy. I worked for IKEA for a couple of years in the marketing department.
Can you actually put one of those cupboards up quite quickly?
No, I was in the marketing department, so actually I did wear my yellow shirt, and it was quite nice actually to be in the shop, and they will ask you the price of that cabinet, or that how do you get that sort of, how do you install that cabinet? But I had no idea, so I used to sort of hide in the shop. But it was more of a field trip. We were working in the office. But actually, forget the quality of the furniture, forget, if you want the values of IKEA, working at IKEA when you're very young in the head office has been an incredible experience, because it's a very good company from a management point of view, and I learned so much in my first years of my career that I still recall. I called Mama IKEA because IKEA taught me a lot in that respect. So I started to work there in the marketing department, and every time the advertising agency used to come and present their ideas, I was really fascinated, because obviously advertising within the marketing department is the most creative branch, if you want. And I said, wow, that's one day I'm just going to go and work in advertising. And that day arrived pretty soon, and after 2 years I just said goodbye with my IKEA, and I came to London 11 years ago. Literally with nothing. I had the luggage, I had my pressure cooker because I love cooking, and if you're single and you love cooking, the pressure cooker is the real secret. I had my little coffee machine, of course, and a laptop. And
what else do you need, right?
Well, that's you need, yeah, really. That's it, really. And then I started to work in advertising as an account manager. And on the hindsight, it's been an incredible experience because my job at the moment, I mean, working in interior design, it's all about managing client, timing, and a budget. And being an account manager in a very aggressive industry like advertising is being a phenomenal exercise to be able to be a good interior designer a bit later. So I worked there for a couple of years, and then I did several evening courses, shiatsu, reflexology, and interior design. And the first evening at my course in interior design, I remember when I was a kid, I used to draw everything and anything. And I said, you know what? Life is too short. And I was really 29 at that time. And I took a bank loan of £20,000. I took 1 year off, changed career, and never looked back.
Fantastic.
And I started like, I suppose, any other freelancer, working from home. Actually, work from my wardrobe because I didn't have an office, didn't have a desk. I used to have this sliding door wardrobe, and it had 2 shelves in the middle with a mirror. And so in the morning, I used to take a chair downstairs in the kitchen,
take it out,
take it out, bring it into my wardrobe, open the sliding doors, and that was the headquarter of my company.
So where it all began.
Yeah, in Brick Lane, which 10 years ago was quite edgy and definitely underground more than now. And that's how I started. And it's just been an incredible journey. And then after a few years, I got an employee, and then 2, and then now this is where we are.
Yeah, no, okay. So, and what kind of the products, the projects that you're doing? What's your main area?
It's we do sort of 50% residential and 50% commercial, and the reason we do both is because we like both. It comes very organically, so it just happens by nature, but in our industry, there is a big crossover between residential and commercial. So sometimes when I design a kitchen for a private client, I need to think more often like a bar or a boutique hotel, if you want. At the same time, if I design a restaurant or a boutique hotel, it has to have that sort of ambience, the lighting, the coziness of a private living room. So there's a massive crossover, and it's quite healthy to design the 2 fields because you can combine it and you can bring the best in each other's world if you want. At the same time, there are 2 different dynamics. Commercial projects are very fast, in and out, and it's quite refreshing that you get a brief today and usually after 3-6 months you're already out.
Is it less emotional?
It's less emotional. Yeah. Again, you've got a manager, you've got a budget. It's it's kind of black and white. But if you do only commercial, I suppose it can get quite bland, a bit sterile, and that's why I like to do residential, which takes a bit longer. Clients change their mind, they drive me nuts sometimes, but at the same time, you really become part of the family.
Yeah.
I like that sort of bond and that sort of relationship, that sort of intimacy, if you want, that you get with your residential clients, because you need to click at the beginning, they need to trust you, and then the value and the improvement that you bring to their lifestyle is just that's the real joy, and that's very fulfilling, I'd say.
Do you get to a stage sometimes, especially on the residential projects when you've ripped everything out and you probably see the shock in the owner's eyes because they can't, they might have seen the plans, but they're thinking, hang on a minute. Did you get to that stage? You know what you're doing, obviously.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing. I mean, most of the time, no matter how many 3Ds you do, no matter how much you sketch, no matter how many times you told the client, this is the wallpaper, this is the flooring, this is what it's going to look like, they'll, in a good way, they go to the stage that they just trust you and they feel they are in good hands, which doesn't mean they've fully understood what's coming up. And then when it all finishes, when it all happens, then they're like, oh, wow, that is amazing. And you're like, look, I've been telling you this for the last 6 months, 12 months. And but they cannot visualize it. So somehow you need that sort of, that's why they got us. So there's always that sort of benefit of the doubt that they'll know that it's safe hands. And when it happens, they'll just, good news that they're going to have something that they didn't fully understand it.
Yeah.
And then the final result is even better than they thought.
A little bit like halfway through a haircut, you're thinking, oh my God, she's not finished.
Yes, indeed.
You've put this magazine in front of me, Home Italia, and you're on the front page here. And it looks like an amazing residence. I mean, tell us a little bit about that project.
Yeah, it's first time on the front page, which is quite emotional actually, because we had a few articles, but when you're on the front page, it's like, wow, this is quite
you
something.
said to me, look at page 80, so I didn't realise that was your work on the front page.
Yeah, it's a property. It's a project that we just finished in North London in Grange Park, and it's been an incredible project because the clients really, really trusted us from the beginning until the end. They felt really comfortable with us, and once again, when we showed the first presentation, they were like, okay, looks good, and throughout the project they let us choose all the finishes. They gave us a budget, we managed the budget, we managed contractors, and obviously, like we always do, we just control and follow the project all the way to the end, up to the accessories that are going to go into the kitchen or the living room. And it's been an amazing journey because they've got a very peculiar lifestyle. It's a big house, and they're very interactive people. They like to have a lot of friends, a lot of big family around it. So we had to design a space that would cater for husband, wife, and 3 adult kids. At the same time, maybe on the odd weekend, they're going to have 15, 20 people.
Oh, wow, okay.
And they need to cook for 15, 20 people, and it's a serious cooking. And so we had to think about a space that would look very classy, very chic, and at the same time very practical, because when you're invaded by 15, 20 people kind of last minute, he has to flow, he has to feel spacious, and they like to chit chat around the house. So it was really interesting brief, very challenging, and that's the final result.
The wooden floors there, I mean, they look, I was just staring at them, they look absolutely lovely.
Yeah, it's a herringbone wooden floor, which is very trendy at the moment.
It's like some ancient castle or something.
It is, yeah. It's something that came back, I'll say, a couple of years ago, and it's probably the finish at the moment.
Yeah.
And I always suggest to go a bit dark with herringbones, because ironically, if we go quite light, I mean, if that herringbone that you see at the moment, which is a stained dark oak, if that would be some sort of a pale oak or pine perhaps, or beech, it wouldn't really get the same lax old-fashioned feeling. So we introduced this, we specified this material that gives that sort of subtle elegance, if you want, which was part of the brief.
Yeah, no, and I like the way they flow straight into the tiles. I guess that's the kitchen, dining room.
Mm-hmm, yes.
No, fantastic. Yeah. And I mean, can I be cheeky and ask the price per square foot on a wooden floor like that? I mean, that's...
No, you'd be surprised. I mean, the way we work with suppliers that we used for a long time. So we really build a relationship with suppliers, and we get to access really good trade price. So to answer your question, I think you're looking, if I remember well, anything between £40 and £50 a square metre. So it's not silly money.
It's affordable.
Yeah, and also the builders, because it's quite trendy material, they are quite familiar. They kind of digested the way to do it, because it's an ancient technique. So it's kind of an old-fashioned way of doing it.
Because it just doesn't look like
it doesn't come
every builder's going to panic a little bit putting that
a little bit. They're going to panic, swear at you at the beginning, and then they're going to start the first sort of row of herringbone, and then they get it. There comes a small plug, But at the same time, when they get into that sort of right frame of mind, there's a big satisfaction, I suppose, for a builder to finish that flooring, because there's a good dose of labour, good labour involved in that.
Yeah, I can see some definitely technique, and the lights in the. I mean, you've designed everything here.
And literally everything, from the kitchen to the lighting plan, sourced everything, and and because as I said before, our job it's very personal. So in this particular case, the client really loved cooking. And then because I love cooking as well, so when you got in front of your client that shares the same passion of cooking, that you got into details of what do you cook, how do you cook, do you use the oven, do you need 1, 2 ovens, do you what kind of cuisine are you into? You know, are you into fermented food, or are you into a lot of bakery? Are you into Asian? Do you need a teppanyaki style sort of grill? So it gets very detailed, but that's very important because I need to know how they like to cook. What's the feeling they want to get out of their kitchen? Does it have to look nice and not practical? Does it have to be very practical and ideally quite elegant? So that's.
No, I could live here quite
yeah,
easily.
And the lighting. I'm a lighting freak.
Yeah, those lights are lovely.
Especially in the kitchen, you need, I'd say, at least 3 kind of lighting scenarios. Because you need lighting over your prep area, and you need very specific light for that. You need lighting over your chopping area, and so you want to make sure that when you chop the onion, you're going to chop the onion, not your fingers. So the temperature of the light has to be very important. It has to be quite bright and quite cold. And then ideally, you should have a very, very soft lighting. So you're done your cooking and you enjoy your glass of wine, and then the kitchen becomes a perfect backdrop of an intimate atmosphere. So, and I usually put an LED strip on top of the cabinets of the kitchen if I got a high ceiling.
Yeah,
all of a sudden the kitchen becomes a perfect backdrop of sexy lighting, if you want, or something quite relaxing. So there are different stages to live.
I think we should have done this interview in your kitchen. You could have been cooking while
you're
making me a little bit peckish. Tell us about the kitchen here. What's the work surface behind that one?
Well, in this kitchen, again, because the client cooks a lot, we went for
It's a breakfast bar as well.
Yeah, so it's a massive breakfast bar, which is also a big preparation surface for her. And at the same time, because they got a lot of guests, she likes to present everything on a buffet style over the counter. So it's got different functions. It's a perfect place to chit chat where friends comes around during the day. It's a perfect place to show off that what they've been cooking for the whole day or weekends for that matter. And at the same time, it's a good place to prepare a lot of food. And in terms of color, she wanted something quite neutral, so we went for a cream cabinet color. The surface is made of silestone, which is a mix between natural stone and acrylic. And then we went for an interesting splashback with a bronze. It's a bronze back painted toughened glass, and that brings a bit of a texture, a bit of a personality. Otherwise, it would be too beigey or creamy and boring and flat.
I can see why this made it to the magazine. It's nearly too perfect to cook in there.
Yeah, but then I think it's an inspiring place to cook as well, because it feels very spacious. It feels like, okay, I can just mess around for a bit because I know where to put my pans and pots and flowers and everything.
It must be quite nice to have a project where you do get the full remit, and here's the space, off you go, here's the budget.
And this was a very complicated place, because it's a typical case that the client wanted to just clutter everything all together, and once again they follow our advice to do a bit of an extension on the back, because they had the wish list in terms of space was too long, and we would have cluttered the whole house with tables and islands and everything. So they decided to do a bit of an extension, and we're talking about 10 square meters, but that was crucial for the space to breathe. The project took a bit longer, cost a bit more money, but then the final result is perfect because it flows. There's a sense of space. There's a lot going on. There are a lot of rooms, different activities. There's a formal dining room. There is a TV room. There's a big kitchen. There is there's sort of a family dining room and a family TV room, if you want, all together, and it really flows.
Yeah, no, I guess they'll be getting you around to do the upstairs soon. No?
Well, they kind of mention that, but I'll wait for them to perhaps to make a bit more money, and then we can do the first floor properly.
Where you hit them with the price.
Yes, indeed.
So, I mean, obviously, you mentioned as well, you design products.
Yeah.
What kind of thing are we? I've seen a few of them, but maybe you can tell the listeners a few what you're into.
Yeah.
In designing. I mean, these lights above us here are
Yeah, these are two
trumpets.
Yeah, they got the shape of a trumpet,
Yeah.
and they're called buffo. And buffo means moustache or whiskers.
Okay.
And
In Italian.
in Italian, yeah. So whenever we design product, usually the starting point is what's missing. Because as a designer, I know what's missing. You know, it's quite frustrating that you need a product, you need a light fitting, and it's not there. And sometimes, actually, most of the time, it's okay. If I can't find it, let me design it, because there might be a clever manufacturer there that understand that it's missing. And most of the time, it's already sold because it's really filling a gap in the market. So in this particular case, I was really annoyed that there wasn't in my industry a pendant that could do what a pendant should do, which is having the light on top of the table. And at the same time, the same pendant, the same light fitting should have a different circuit, a different function, whereby you press the switch, and rather than having the light on top of your table, you have two sort of a floating whiskers of light.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, it's a very functional
yeah.
light, but at the same time, it's a very ambient light, and it's all within one fitting. And that's how the buffer or whiskers or moustache
You get the name,
came
yeah.
alive. Yeah.
And these are out on the market for people to.
Yeah, they're made from a company called Italamp. As far as I know, they sell quite well, and they've got different finishes, which is matte black, and then you've got this black nickel, it's called, which is a mix between black finish and brass, and then there's a white version as well, and they come into different sizes.
No, I remember one of my first flats that I refurbished, and funny enough, I bought a couple of sort of the other end of the budget, so these probably a couple of lights from IKEA. And they were kind of the witch's hat style shape, if you like. Not quite as finessed as these, but had a good effect. But these work. Yeah, they're lovely. For sure. And we've got these. The sound. Their lights as well.
Sound panels, yeah. So something I get really fanatic, if you want, about it is lighting and acoustic. Perhaps I'm getting older. Perhaps I'm originally from a small island in Venice. I grew up surrounded by silence.
Okay.
I didn't grow up in the metropolis. I didn't grow up in a busy city. So for me, silence is something I just appreciate. And whenever I go to places that are quite loud, especially a restaurant, there's nothing that bothers me more than going into a restaurant and the lighting is not good and the acoustic is bad. It's really frustrating that you go to a restaurant, the surface is quite good, the food is good, and at the end, because the designer or the architect or the client at the end of the day didn't think about acoustic, it's you're really missing a big part of design, which is acoustic. So back to your question, those are acoustic panel that really helps to absorb the sound within the room. It's called reverberation. So if we take these panels out, because in this room you got you got a big window, you got a glass table and tiles. They're all hard materials, and the sound will go all over the place. There'll be a lot of reverberation. But those panels, which is made of felt, really absorb the sounds quite effectively.
And that's probably a reflection of your attention to detail on projects.
Yeah, it's just, choose your battles. That's what I always tell my clients, what's important. And so that's why, the commercial and residential fields, we have two different starting points in terms of battles or priorities or wish list. So when it comes to, again, residential client, what's your wish list? How do you live? What do you care in your house? Is it the kitchen? Is it the bathroom? Is that an entertaining? Why do you want to refurb? What's the conscious, subconscious decision? What's the rationale of your refurbishment? Is it because you're tired and you want to refresh your house? Is it perhaps something changed in your lifestyle? Perhaps you got really successful and you should really reflect your success, your personality into a better place. Is the lighting not working? So that is finding that very deep need, that very deep motive, if you want, that makes that client go through quite a stressful project. Because I refurbished my house. You probably did it a few times. Refurbishing your place is just not an easy process. No matter how much you plan, no matter how good the builder, allegedly will be, it's always a stressful project. It's not an easy journey. And then it comes to, sometimes it's just something happens and not even your fault, and it's just part of the journey. My wife always asks me, once we finished our property and we've been through the typical journey of a builder, walking away or not being on time, and at that time she was pregnant, she always say, how can you possibly do this every day?
Every day, yeah.
And I suppose it's just part of your daily life, and it's just it's part of the journey. It's part of the process. Nothing personal. It's the industry.
Speed bumps. Is how you get over them.
Yeah.
Right?
You're listening to The Property Show with Matt Turner of Astute Property Search. If you have any property-related questions that you would like to ask Matt, you can email him at matt, with 2 T's, at astutepropertysearch.co.uk.
You mentioned there restaurants. I've had the pleasure of going to one of your restaurants, I think, in...
Is it the Puglia one?
Yeah.
The Italian.
I mean, the food is amazing. They do that Italian cheese. What's the...
burrata, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't need to look at the starter menu when I go there. But, let's talk a little bit about its designs. It's got a very Italian feel, obviously.
That was my first restaurant in London. It was 7 years ago. And... restaurants, if you come from a marketing background, designing commercial spaces, I wouldn't say it's easier, but you just get it. You get into the mindset that you want to know what the brand is or is going to be all about. And then you sit in front of a client, in front of a chef, in front of the mastermind behind that project, and say, okay, who we want to attract. That person that comes into your shop, your restaurant, what is that person ideally meant to feel about the space? So, and as I said before, the battles or the priorities of wish list is very clear. I want a big kitchen. I want that sort of style. I want to define and attract this particular target market. So in this particular project, I sat down with a chef who was the owner as well of the place. And I asked him, so what are you going to cook? What's your vision? He said, well, I like to cook what my grandma used to cook when I was a kid. And I said, okay, well, what kind of era are we talking about? And he said, well, late 40s and early 50s. I said, right, that's interesting. And I did a bit of research, and I realized that the late 40s, in terms of style, in terms of interiors, hasn't been touched until then. And it's a very peculiar and interesting time of the Italian history, because the war is over. At the same time, the Renaissance of the 50s, when the Vespa was invented, the Ferrari, it's called the Dolce Vita period. So the whole country had this very, very quick and fast and furious Renaissance. So it wasn't there. So in a way, everybody's happy that the war is over, but there's no money. And that was a really interesting brief from a design point of view. And in fact, the restaurant has got that very basic happiness. So the finishes are very simple, are very basic, are very poor. I remember I asked the contractor, I have really good contractor on site, and it was very difficult for him to be quite dodgy. And I did say specifically, for instance, can you please make sure that the lines of these two colors are going to be blurry, because we are pretending that you're just improvising. The war is over, you're improvising to be a builder, and you've got to be a bit shabby. Yeah. And so it was actually quite fun to be on site.
Bus driver becomes builder.
Indeed. And then it was quite a lot of fun, actually, to say, can you be a bit more dodgy, please, because it's not part of the brief. And that was the brief for the restaurant. So something very, very basic, improvise if you want, but quite happy, quite a bit. So the colours are quite serene. There is a dark blue, and I did a lot of research about movies in that era. I remember we were moving houses, and we were just living in a temporary space in a flat, so we didn't have a television, and I just had a laptop, And it was that week that I really had to brainstorm and come up with a concept. So my poor wife was forced to watch a lot of war movies for that period, because I needed to nail it, really. What was the specific color, look and feel of that era in southern Italy. So that's how we work. You know, when there's a really cool brief and there's a cool story, when I got in front of me a sort of a maverick person that has got a vision, that is my client. So to give you another example, we are working at the moment on probably one of the coolest projects I ever worked with, which is the first medical spa in London which will offer a wine therapy service.
Okay.
Which means that you'll be able to bath yourself in red wine. I know.
Okay.
And that was my reaction when the client asked me to do that. But it used to be a very common democratic, technique back in old Rome.
Right.
And if you think about it, red wine is besides the fact that it tastes good, but it also is full of antioxidants. So the Romans used to bath themselves quite regularly in red wine. And I'm really surprised that nobody had thought about it. And then London is the best place to just launch this crazy idea. And it's in Chelsea, so in the heart of London. It's on 2 floors. And in a couple of weeks, it should be launched.
Wow.
Yeah, and so when I met the client, and then the client told me, okay, I got this vision. I want to be the first one in UK to import this concept. Because there's a tiny place in centre of Italy, and as far as I know, there's a tiny one in Switzerland. And that's it, really. And so I want to do the first one in Chelsea, and then if it works, we're going to do a franchising.
Roll it out.
Yeah, roll it out.
I could just imagine. I mean, I'm just seeing someone get out of a tub of red wine and
Yeah.
scrubbing themselves to get clean, kind of thing.
No, well, actually, so the spa is quite big. I mean, it's on 2 floors, and there will be a mix of services. So you can see your osteopath, and then it gets quite technical. Maybe this is not the right place, but they'll be able to detect the heavy metals in your body with special machine. It's a really avant-garde. We've got really avant-garde technology that will be an alternative kind of holistic way of looking at your body. But at the same time, underneath, you're going to go into this sort of secret spa. So you're under Fulham Road, because part of the spa, actually, where the bath are, you're under the pavement of Fulham Road.
Right. Okay.
And it's going to be quite surreal, because the process that you get there, you undress yourself, and you're going to have a scrub with grapes.
Okay.
So they're going to scrub yourself with grapes, which kind of makes sense. And then you take a shower. In the meantime, the bath will be ready for you. You bath yourself in wine. Then you
have
go
a glass of wine at the same time?
No, not yet.
No?
Then you go back to the shower. You take all the antioxidants you want away from you. And then they'll give you a full body massage. And then, before you go back to the reality, you'll sit in a very cozy sofa. They'll give you a foot bath, and they'll give you a good glass of wine that you deserve at that time. You'll probably be craving for that for a long time. And then you finish your experience.
No, we're still good. So I just dropped the recorder. Okay.
You got too excited.
I'm picturing myself in the bath with the red wine. I suppose in a few weeks I can.
Yes, indeed. The 9th and the 10th of February is the launch. So.
And what's the name of that?
The name is Ella Di Rocco, which doesn't mean anything, but it sounds good.
Okay.
And that tells you how much I want to work with the client when she told me that.
Yeah. Right. That sounds like it's quite a left field project. That one.
Yeah.
I mean, just going back to all the restaurant. I remember the taps were quite particular in the washrooms. I think you actually sourced those.
Yeah, I went to a second-hand market
in Italy. Yeah?
No, here outside London, in Salisbury.
Yeah. And
it's such an experience, really, because there is a place in just outside London where all the wholesalers of second-hand market just go and buy the goods. So you get there at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's a field. It's actually, I think it's a motorcycle field. And then there's one particular Tuesday, I think, the first Tuesday of the month. You go there very early in the morning, and it's just a wild market. And then you buy all these second-hand things coming from all over Europe. and then that's why we sourced the basins, all the chairs and everything. So I got a picture of my client just holding this basin, all very happy, 5 o'clock in the morning, and then we just
as you do.
We just filled the car with all this bunch of rubbish ones, because again, part of during the 40s is you still have bakelite, which was that all the light fittings were made of that particular plastic.
Okay.
So we found a box full of bakelite, and I went inside and I told the electrician, look, out of this box somehow we need to do some light fitting, and so we just bought that box and then brought it into central London, and after a couple of months there were light fittings.
You definitely see things in different ways.
Oh yeah, I see the potential of a box of rubbish. Yeah,
which I suppose. Well, I mean, some of your other products that you've got. I'm going to call them stools because I don't want to pronounce it wrong. I mean,
they're puffs. They're called the muffin puffs.
Yeah,
and it's something I designed 5 years ago.
Yeah,
and I just like the idea that a muffin, which is something very... If you look at muffin from a design perspective, it's a very bizarre cake because it's distorted. It's not a cylinder. The base is a cone, and then you've got this buttery texture that sort of overflows. It's a very... You just want to hug the muffin. Mm-hmm. You want to sit on it. You want to bite it. And then I thought, well, why don't we just bake massive muffin that you'd be able to sit on it? And that's how the muffin puff was invented, which is a proper seat. It's a puff. Yeah. It's a stool, and it's made of solid wood. And the top part, the leathery part, the buttery part is made with prime cut leather. And then you open the top, and it's got a bit of a storage underneath. That was my first product, and at that time I self-manufactured. And I learned the whole process behind product. I learned how important it is to get it right, how expensive it is to design and make a product, how expensive is the whole prototype journey. So now that I design for other companies, I really understand the pressure they have to launch a product that is going to sell, is going to be at the right price, and it has to be engineered, designed, manufactured in order to be successful, which is ultimately having the right price, the right feel, and the right look.
Yeah, no, I think you walk into your showroom from a distance, and you see these muffins. Essentially, they look quite tasty.
Yeah. There's a mini muffin for kids coming up very soon.
Okay.
Because I think that obviously, as a parent now, I'm lucky enough to be a daddy, and I understand how much you will do for your kids. So now we are gonna make sure that even the kids will be able to have their own mini muffin.
Yeah.
Which is, at the end of the day, they can take it with them. They can bring it around the house because it's quite a light object, and they can just sit everywhere to play. Yeah. And then they can choose the flavor. So we're thinking about strawberry, anise, lemon. So we just the flavors, which are the colors of the leather top, will replicate. They will be much more kids oriented. Whilst for the adults, they usually buy white chocolate or dark chocolate because, I don't know, maybe we're just all missing affection. The more we grow, the more we like to go back to basics.
I mean, I've known you quite a few years, but it is quite funny now. We started off with a food analogy, but actually food has played quite a big part in your design story here.
Yeah, I never realised that.
We've mentioned it quite a few times.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose that moves on to the wallpaper as I'm walking in. You've got some, I mean, I love when I refurbish places. I always have like one wall, it's nowhere near as sophisticated as your designs, but with nice, I quite like Scandinavian style minimalistic wallpaper. And I've just noticed you have some nice designs on the way in here. I mean, tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, so in a couple of days, tomorrow I'm going to Paris to make sure that the stand that we design is the way we want it. In a couple of days, there will be the launch of a wallpaper collection that we will be working on in the last 6 months, and we just now we can make it official because we are very, very close to the launch. But in September we were asked to be art directors for a new wallpaper brand based in northern Italy, and it's quite It's quite a big company. They're very structured. They're very professional. So it's been a pleasure to work with them. And we've been asked to just think about everything. So we thought about the branding, the name, what would be the look of a stand, because we got Paris, now we're going to Dubai, and then Milan, Ukraine, I think. So it's good. We're going to roll out a lot of exhibitions. So it's been an incredible journey, really, to work on this brand. And the name of the brand is Baboon.
Okay.
And why Baboon? Why not? And it's a name that it's a very common name, but at the same time it's just so bizarre, especially when you relate it to a wallpaper, and because of the double O in the center, it just sticks into your brain. So if you're a designer or an architect or just anyone really, and Baboon is something that you remember. So as soon as we will be able to connect the brand and the name with something original and different, I think it'll be hopefully a very successful brand. So in a couple of days we are launching all the wallpapers that we design. We collaborated with different designers as well, because our job is to select, and it's been a really interesting another interesting journey, because from a product designer now we are art directing, so we need to make sure that there is a consistency, there is a long-term vision for the brand, and so we are writing the briefs at the moment for other designers in order to design a collection that will work with the brand and with our initial collection. So it's I feel quite grown up at the moment in that field, because now we are taking a step backward and say, okay, it's kind of a connected the dots between marketing, interior design, and product design, and I feel we feel ready for that.
So I guess the next challenge is going to be getting a project where you can implement your lights, wallpaper, and your muffin.
Yeah, an atelier, perhaps a restaurant. You never know. Matteo Bianchi's restaurant, if you want. But I have a lot of dear friends working in the restaurant industry, and they always told me, never ever open a restaurant yourself, because it really drains you. Yeah. So
No, okay. Well, I mean, we talked a lot about the interior design. You actually live in a lovely part of London, East Dulwich. I mean, it's changed a lot in recent years. Very villagey kind of. I always think that it doesn't feel like you're in London.
Yeah.
I mean, tell us a little bit about East Dulwich. What you like about it, and I mean, you bought a place there. The process. And
It's been probably one of the best sort of turning points in my life in London, because I was living in Dalston. That was very trendy. We're looking at 6 years ago. It was very trendy, very buzzy at the moment. But I got to a point, I just got married, and we wanted to be in a place that felt a bit more serene, rather than just, walking outside the door and have the whole metropolitan energy, if you want, in your face. And funny enough, I never went south that much, because I was living in East London until that time. And we heard about these places like East Dulwich, Denmark Hill, Herne Hill, and we just went on a weekend, and we liked East Dulwich, so we rented a place and we sold the other property in the meantime. And then when it came to buy the property, given the lifestyle and also given the fact that I always like to ask professionals to do their job much more than I would do myself, I asked this property finder, running a company called Astute Property Search, right? if it could help me out. And they did an amazing job, because I gave me a very clear brief. I remember like it was yesterday. I need a 2-bedroom flat. It has to be really, really old, very decrepit, very, it's just sort of screaming for refurbishment. So the older the better. This is my budget, and I'm looking for a place that is very quiet, and it doesn't have any cars at night going back and forward. So we engaged you at that time, and then you did the magic, because the first weekends, the first day really, within 2 hours you showed us 3 properties, but the second one was it. And then what I really respect, and I still thank you about it, was the fact that not only you found the right place with the right brief, but you really helped us through this very stressful and emotional process of buying a house, because London is a really tough place to buy, and then before you know, you get really emotional and you don't rationalize it anymore. And then it was very good, give us the timing, when to put an offer, how to put the offer, when to hold it, when to negotiate, when to say yes. And it was a very reassuring and professional journey. So thank you again.
Yeah, well,
on behalf of my wife as well.
Well, I hope you have many happy times there. I mean, to be fair, sometimes you get lucky. I did stumble across it at the right time. It wasn't like I magicked up the flat, but yeah, no, you are in a lovely little spot. I mean, East Dulwich itself, you've got, I think people queue around the corner to the butchers during the weekends.
Yeah.
You can still buy that. You've got the nice artisan bakeries, coffee shops. It's definitely and you've got parks, huge parks as well.
Massive. I think it's one of those. I mean, if you live in East Dulwich, and if you've been living around here or living in South London, you know. But I still find quite amusing the fact that you talk to people who've never been in the area and they have no idea what East Dulwich is all about, which is good. I feel like it's still a bit of a secret in London, because I don't think it's got nothing to envy from Wimbledon or Hampstead. It's got that little villagey community feeling. And you go outside on the high street and then they know you, they recognise you, and they've got quality food. You got as you say, you got the butcher, you got the fishmonger, you got the organic shop, and it's just amazing. And then in 15 minutes you're in central London. And in my case, I'm very lucky, because in 15 minutes I just leave home, cross the park, and I'm in my office. So and now with the Peckham, with the whole Peckham regeneration, it's really cool, because during the day I feel like a very young, trendy designer, and then in the evening or a weekend,
you are.
Allegedly, fair enough. And then in the evening, weekend, I just feel like a very grown-up, happy daddy, living in a very quiet part of London, which is great.
No, brilliant. Well, listen, thank you very much. I'm sure anyone who's listening has been, you are an inspiring person. The way you describe things, it's beautiful. So really, thank you for your time today, and I wish you all the success going forward. I mean, if anybody has any projects that they're looking to develop, restaurants or homes, how can anybody get in contact with you?
Yeah, we'll just go on our website, which is matteobianchi.co.uk, or just Google our name, really. And should I spell it? Or,
spell it.
It's www.matteobianchi, which is matteobianchi.co.uk. And let's give us a call. Drop us an email, and
I can
have a chat. And remember, the cooler the brief, the better. That's where I get really excited, and that's probably when you're going to get something that you never thought about it.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, all Matteo's details will be on the website, and well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you again for tuning in today. I should have actually said at the beginning of the show that we have a slight change to the listing this week. I did mention we're going to be talking kitchens. That hopefully now is going to be next week. So hopefully you can delay your kitchen plans a week. These things do happen when you're refurbishing, so happens on radio as well. So until next week, I'm Matt Turner on The Property Show on UK Health Radio.